Hi there, this is David and welcome to the top 10 most memorable JRPG deaths. While this can be quite the morbid topic, I'm going to try to keep this light and airy because many times deaths in RPGs can serve to really move the story along and give the player a stake and sense of purpose inside the game world. Other times it's kind of a fake out death, where the developers make you believe that someone died only for them to come back alive much later on in the game. Here though, I'm going to focus on those real deal deaths, the ones that are permanent and move you to tears. Because of the nature of this list, there will be many spoilers. This is your one warning. So, let's go ahead and get started. Number 10, Tella of Final Fantasy IV. While a lot of characters in Final Fantasy IV die, most of them are later found out to have survived due to extenuating circumstances. Everyone, that is, except for Old Man Tella. His death was probably the first true RPG death that I ever saw, but it was all just so meaningless. He died trying to avenge his late daughter, but as we all know, Golbez came out of the fight unscathed. What is great about Final Fantasy IV, though, is how consistently thematic its narrative is. When you look at just about every moment in the story, it was always about themes of forgiveness, revenge, and redemption. Tella's journey from Damcyan onward was all about this. While he eventually found it in his heart to forgive Edward, his resolve for vengeance still consumed him, and he dedicated his life seeking Medio to exact that revenge. It just consumed him completely and fully. Number 9, Galif of Final Fantasy V. Galif is a fun guy. As one of the four main heroes of light, he brings a needed sense of levity to the team. When he first joins, he's lost his memory, but it soon becomes apparent that he's not only from another world, but he's a king there as well. He came to the first world in order to stop Exdeath, but when he finally confronts him, poor Galif is slaughtered right in front of his granddaughter's eyes. Having played Final Fantasy IV countless times in my youth, I was expecting yet another fake-out death, but this was the real deal. He sacrificed himself for the good of the team, and his flame flickered out in incredible fashion, only then for the old dude to get immediately replaced by his spunky granddaughter. Number 8, Marek of Grandia 2. I remember the first time I played this game, it really shook me to the core upon seeing his death. Marek is a noble beastman, and pretty much the tank of the group. He's always full of wisdom, and he's the only father figure in Ryudo's life. He's also the glue that holds everyone together. As it comes to pass, the group is on Valmar's moon, rescuing Elena, of course, and getting Valmar's horns, but afterwards, whenever it's time to flee to the Granite Saber, Marek sacrifices himself to allow everybody else to escape. It's especially poignant because, as you escape, Valmar's minions literally cover up the entire surface, swallowing Marek whole, and then they even begin to cling to your spacecraft as you narrowly escape back to Earth. It's nerve-wracking as well as heart-wrenching at the same time. Number 7, Lavitz of The Legend of Dragoon. I'll be the first one to admit that I don't like this game, but I do like Lavitz. He's one of the most fleshed out characters in the game, always offering sound advice to Dart and getting along well with the rest of the team. He's Dart's best friend and easily the most likable character in the group, always offering advice to anybody who asks. The knight is selfless, loyal, kind, and chivalrous. He's always putting himself before everybody else, which I guess becomes his downfall, because he ends up giving his life to protect Albert as he's impaled by the Dragon Buster. It is a shocking death, and it kinda comes out of nowhere, but like every good JRPG, he's replaced wholesale by Albert just a few moments later. Number 6, Nico of Arcrise Fantasia. Poor Nico! All throughout the game, the sweet guy was in over his head. But even though he was a coward at his core, he still looked up to Mr. Lark and considered him a great friend. All throughout the game, he's constantly running away from danger, scared about different situations, and halfway through it, he even leaves Lark a Dear John letter, saying that all this danger is just too much for him and he's too scared to go on. But Nico eventually does find his courage whenever he joins up with the resistance and then sacrifices himself kamikaze style to stop the White Spear from annihilating Diamond Royal City. I always loved Nico from the get-go, and seeing him come full circle to help out the party when they needed it most was beyond touching. Number 5. Milliam of The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3. This little girl was always the most happy-go-lucky member of Class 7. She was always full of spunk, sunshine, and light, which I think is why it was so shocking when she decided to sacrifice herself and take her sister's place to become the Originator Zero sword for Valimar at the very end of Cold Steel 3. She did make a noble sacrifice, and I know that she's really just a robot, but it hurt all the same. But Reen especially took it hard because afterwards he finally loses it, and his ogre side comes out in full force whenever he uses his anger and rage to slaughter the Nameless One. But then the curse overtakes him, before overtaking all of Erebonia. Her death is just too much. Number 4. Alice of Phantasy Star 4. It's very regretful to me that I wasn't able to play this game upon its release, because the impact that Alice's death would have had on me would have been catastrophic. To me, she was always the hero of the game at the start. She's a tender motherly figure to her little sidekick Chaz, while at the same time being a no-nonsense bitch whenever it comes to work and money. When the group goes on to fight Zio, he fires an energy beam at Chaz, but her, ever the protector, jumps in front of him and takes the full force of the blow, severely injuring her. Even on her deathbed, though, she shows that she truly cares for Chaz, and tells him that she's proud of the man that he grew up to be. Everything about the scene is just handcrafted to stab you in the heart, and from then on, it's up to Chaz to exact revenge for Alice's death and save the Algo star system, once and for all. Number 3. Papas of Dragon Quest V. I would be hard-pressed to name a game more depressing than this one. For those unaware, Papas is your papa, and you're 6 years old, traveling the world with him. And like any good father, he takes care of you, protects you, and looks after you. That is, until you run off without him to rescue the brattiest prince alive. It's then that the enemy catches you off guard, takes you captive, and puts a hell scythe to your throat. So, unless Papa stands down and succumbs quietly to his own death, they're going to kill you. There's really nothing like it, because the warrior does not go down fighting. He instead dies to save his son. But what really gets me is that we all know that he could win this fight. In fact, he just did. But because of Laja, we have to watch Papa stoically take blow after blow until he finally dies, leaving the hero with no one to protect him from the horrors of slavery that await. Number 2. Arius of Final Fantasy VII. Get out the torches and pitchforks. I didn't make Arius' death number 1. Yeah, I know, it's sad. It even actually made me cry when I first saw the scene, especially because she's easily the best magic user in the game, and then suddenly she's murdered by Sephiroth with no way to get her back. And I think that the developers intentionally did this. They really wanted you to kind of have a hole in your party, a weakness in your strategy because of her loss. It's not like whenever Galif dies in Final Fantasy V and he's just replaced wholesale with a granddaughter. No, because instead, the character that you're emotionally invested in and have committed game time and leveling to is just gone. There's no replacement, there's no new Arius, and I think that's why it works so well. It just makes you always remember her power and what could have been if it wasn't for Sephiroth. And finally, number 1, Nanami of Suikoden 2. To me, this is the most moving death that I've seen in a JRPG. But unlike every other person on this list, she can be brought back to life. However, you really do need extenuating circumstances to do so. Nanami is the hero's big sister, and she acts just like a sister would. Even when she's whining or pouting or arguing with the group, she's just so well written and likable. Everything that she does, you can just picture your sister doing too. Nanami is always at your side, even to the bitter end when she's brought down by a hail of arrows from Gerudo's men. even Joey's comes to his senses and fights along your side at that point. She died so young in her brother's arms without ever really getting to do what she wanted to do, because all she ever really wanted was to live a quiet life in the country away from all the war, fighting, and destruction. But unfortunately, it was that very same war that ultimately took her short life. Well, that's it for the top 10 most memorable JRPG deaths. What are your most memorable deaths in RPGs? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video and what I do here on the channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link to it can be found in the video description. This has been David. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.